All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. In this one, I thought it would be fun to take a look at the AFC East moves of the offseason, kind of project them into 2025, give them an offseason grade. Jets, Patriots, Bills, Dolphins, talk about the notable additions, the notable losses, and really, kind of where this, or my understanding, my personal take on where all four of these teams stand heading into next season. So who should we start with? I guess let's start with New England, because the Patriots, I felt like, were extremely active in a lot of different phases. And first things first, they hired a new head coach in Mike Vrabel, right? Out with the old, in with the new. Mayo is gone. Vrabel is in. I think this move was universally praised. You kind of felt like the culture in New England was a bit of a question mark under Gerard Mayo. Obviously, there was a bunch of losses as well. But Mike Vrabel, I'm like, if you're a Patriots fan, I don't want to sit here and speak for anybody, but I have a hard time looking at the Mike Vrabel hire and saying this is horrible, right? We're getting worse by bringing Mike Vrabel in, right? Someone who is a former Patriot player, so he knows the ownership, he knows the fan base, he knows the organization, the culture, and everything like that. But he's a hard-nosed, physical, defensive mind, someone who has playoff success, someone who's done it before at a pretty high level, someone who you feel pretty confident in. Hey, this guy can really turn things around. He can really right the ship for this Patriots organization that, again, had a really, really difficult 2024 season. And to be honest, the Patriots have missed the playoffs for a couple seasons now. It's been a little bit of a strange situation, like the end of the Belichick era. Some of the moves were a bit questionable. Then, of course, going into the short Mayo era, you gotta feel really good about Mike Vrabel grabbing the bull by the horns, taking the reins, and saying, this is my team. So with that understanding, dude is bringing in all these different guys, right? Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator. One underrated coach that the Patriots brought in, Doug Marrone, working on the offensive line. I mean, what a hire that was. That was someone who I wanted the Jets to target. But in any case, let's talk about the Patriots' notable losses before we talk about the additions. So they lost Jonathan Jones to the Commanders in free agency, Dietrich Wise also going to Washington, and then Devon Godchaux was traded to the New Orleans Saints. So in my opinion, only three notable losses. Not the end of the world, although those three players, like, you've been hearing their names for years. Like, they've all been contributors. They've all started a bunch of games and played in a ton of games, have a lot of experience, but they moved on, right? And New England, you got to feel like, wanted this might be a strong saying here. But at the end of the day, they had a ton of money in cap space. If they wanted those guys back, they could have easily re-signed them. As far as free agency and the draft go, they brought in Harold Landry on a 3-year contract, Stephon Diggs 3-year deal, Milton Williams. This was kind of the headliner move of the offseason for New England. 4-year big money deal. Garrett Bradbury, right, new starting center on a 2-year contract. Morgan Moses, starting right tackle, 3-year contract. Drafting Will Campbell in the first round. He's going to be the team's starting left tackle. So trying to reshape the offensive line. Mike Onwenu's going to be doing his thing at right guard, but I mean, for a team that really needs help on the offensive line, a team that has a new OC coming in, a team that has a young quarterback with a lot of potential in Drake May, you got to fix the offensive line. So Moses is an upgrade. Again, Onwenu's going to do his thing at right guard. Bradbury, you'd hope, is going to be an upgrade over David Andrews. And then you got Will Campbell coming in as a top 5 pick. So all these new faces on the O-line, theoretically speaking, I think the offensive line should perform better. Also, something to keep in mind, Mike Vrabel's maybe MO in Tennessee on the offensive side of the football, physical, nasty offensive linemen. Think Taylor Lewan, all these different guys, right, throughout the years. Derrick Henry, ground and pound, quarterback, don't screw up games, don't ruin games, don't turn the football over, just put the ball in play, hit the playmakers, hand the football off. Occasionally extend plays, but it's really built through successful offensive line play. And for a team like New England, who had a lot of defensive holes and issues on the offensive line, Mike Vrabel comes in and checks both of those boxes. At least that's the hope, right? I think Vrabel probably gives this Patriots team the best chance out of all the available coaches that were hired this offseason. By the way, it slipped my mind. Carlton Davis was also signed on a 3-year deal. That's a huge notable addition. All coming in, obviously one of the best corners now within the AFC East. So yeah, New England, tons of new faces. They're trying to get the culture turned around. I mean, if I was a Patriots fan, I would be absolutely thrilled with this offseason, how it went. I mean, they attacked a ton of positions of need. Love it. It's got to be an A. It's got, for me at least, it's got to be an A. Let's move on and go with the Buffalo Bills, right? Another team that was really active. I felt like they brought in a ton of different guys, and that's always a little freaky if you're not a fan of that team. When you have like these teams up at the top, Philly, Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, Detroit even, teams like that, when they start accumulating more and more talent, more and more big names, it just kind of like you just start spiraling. Like, hey, if this is a team that's projected to win 10, 11, 12 games, before all these acquisitions, what are they going to be projected to win now? So let's take a look at the Bills' losses first. Mac Hollins, he of course signed with the rival Patriots, but two little asterisks by Amari Cooper and Rasul Douglas. Both guys are no longer members of the Bills. Do they get brought back? I don't know. I don't think Rasul Douglas does. We're going to talk about the additions in a second, but Trey White was added to this team. I don't know. I just feel like Douglas might be a little too expensive for the Bills right now, and I don't know, even though I love Douglas as a player. And then Amari Cooper, you kind of feel like he could get a bigger deal for a more wide receiver needy type of team. But if we take a look at the additions, man, Josh Palmer, 3-year deal. Joey Bosa on a 1-year contract. Max Hairston drafted in the first round at corner from Kentucky. TJ Sanders in the second round. Landon Jackson in round 3. Why did I include the second and the third round picks here? Because at one point or another, this offseason, I'm not talking about 2 years ago. I'm not talking about, mock drafts in like last September, like a month before the draft, a month and a half, 2 months before the draft. All three of these guys had their names pop up in the first round. We saw the Buffalo Bills trade up multiple times in this draft as well. They've handpicked their players. Now, of course, they did bring in other guys. Again, Tre'Davious White, Larry Ogunjobi, have a couple suspensions on the D-line with some newcomers coming in. But TJ Sanders, pass rushing, just explosive threat on the inside of that defense. Fits Sean McDermott's defense, in my opinion, perfectly. He's going to be a rotational guy, so you don't have all this pressure riding on him to, solve every issue of the D-line. No, there's so much talent around Sanders to where he could really focus on a couple things and just explode his game, in my opinion. Landon Jackson, from a physical standpoint, like it is like the burst, the athleticism, the size, the strength, like he could really play. You look at his production in the SEC, it seemed to get better against the better players, which is rare. I mean, throw on top of it, he was in the SEC back at Arkansas. That's one thing. But again, when it kind of felt like, hey, the pressure is on, we really need you, we're really going up against this great tackle on the outside, Landon Jackson's game didn't just fall off a cliff. His production didn't fall off. It seemed like no matter who he was going up against, he was always able to hang with those guys, make plays, and do his thing out there. So, man, I'm looking at this Bills team, an AFC Championship team a year ago, and they added Joey Bosa. They add Josh Palmer. They have a great draft, in my opinion. This is another offseason where, much like the Patriots, like, how can you really complain? I mean, where's the biggest weak spot on this Bills team? Wide receiver 1 maybe, but are the Bills even a team that like wants to run a system where there's one primary and that's, then you have this like pecking order of guys underneath? Or do they really want to just spray the football around? 1 week it's Kincaid at tight end, 1 week it'll be Shakir, 1 week it'll be Keon Coleman, right? And it's just this guessing game. 1 week it could be James Cook out of the flat. Like Joe Brady and Bean, Sean McDermott, these guys have really set up this Bills offense to be unpredictable. Then you throw on top of it Josh Allen and his mobility. I mean, man, like, great offseason. It's a great team. I hate to admit it, but another A grade for the Bills offseason. Now, let's move on to the Miami Dolphins here. I would say out of the 4 teams, the Dolphins have had the most controversial and maybe confusing offseason. And I don't mean confusing in a negative term. I just mean it more so like it's been cloudy. when I look at the Patriots, when I look at the Jets, when I look at the Bills, it feels pretty clear, like crystal clear, like, okay, what direction is this team moving in? What's the identity going to be? What are they working towards? With the Dolphins, I think there's a lot of people right now saying, like, are they rebuilding? Are they all in? I don't know. Is it more so a retool? And I think the Dolphins kind of fall into that range. So if we take a look at their notable losses, in my opinion, we have Jonnu Smith traded to the Steelers, Jalen Ramsey traded to the Steelers, and also Javon Holland, one of my favorites. Admittedly, I know he's a Dolphin and everything, or was a Dolphin, but Javon Holland was one of my favorite safeties in the league. I loved him back at Oregon. Was not happy when he was drafted to the Dolphins, but I think, again, this Dolphins team, it just feels a little strange because they're not full on tank mode. They're not full on, we're going to be pressing the Bills to win this division. I don't think they have the talent to do that. There's been some questions too, also with this team in the past. Like, I know people bring up the cold weather. Is that a real factor, or is that like maybe placebo? Is it could the issue be something else within this Dolphins organization? Maybe like defenses. Like, one theory that I have too is like Mike McDaniel is such a smart offensive mind when it comes to like X's and O's, the coaches that he's been around. You kind of feel like Mike McDaniel on the offseason, he's almost like this mad scientist. He's cooking up these different plays. He's finding ways to get guys the football, explosive playmakers. It's speed, it's finesse, all these great things. The rushing attack for Miami is no joke. Everything is built off the running game. And you kind of feel like, again, months go by and he's just behind the scenes. No one is outsmarting Mike McDaniel. And then he shows up to the regular season with this Dolphins team and they're on fire. They're scoring points. They're getting in the end zone. They're just moving on the offensive side of the football. Tua's, in rhythm. And then as the season goes, they kind of fall off. Then again, is it the cold weather? Is that truly what's impacting this team? Is it defenses catching on to all of Mike McDaniel's tricks? So in other words, he's coming out of the gate on fire, and then once defenses start seeing what they're doing, they start adjusting. And now at the end of the season, December, January, the production isn't there. It's not as explosive. It's not as successful. We also have to factor in the Tua injury thing. I hate to say it, but it just feels like Tua misses so much time. So like whenever you're looking at the Dolphins schedule, it's almost like these past seasons, like a couple of these games are being started by quarterbacks that are just, flat out backups. And, if you're a fringe team out there and you swap the situations, like, okay, now all of a sudden this playoff team, this team that has a good coach and has offensive playmakers and whatnot, they are now being led by a backup quarterback for 3 games, 4 games, whatever it may be. Maybe their end of the year record won't be as impressive. Because when Tua is in rhythm and him and Mike McDaniel are on the same page, like that Dolphins offense can fly. Like, you just feel like as soon as Tua's back foot hits, like the ball's released, it's just this quick punchy release. There's such a catchable football as well. But when the Dolphins aren't on, there's issues. So we talked about the losses. Let's look at the additions. So James Daniel, free agent acquisition on a 3-year deal. That was honestly one of the best moves of the offseason. The Dolphins desperately needed help at guard, and they got a solid veteran on a 3-year deal, which was pretty cheap, pretty affordable, if you ask me. Kenneth Grant. I think this was an underrated pick in the first round. Kenneth Grant's athletic upside is crazy. He has great size. When you're thinking about Anthony Weaver's 3-4 defense, Kenneth Grant can plug right in, right on top of the center, be that nose tackle where you can kind of build the defense around. And the Dolphins do, have some talented players. Like, I feel like a lot of people like looked at the Ramsey trade and said like, oh, they're losing Ramsey, the biggest name player and everything. But, I think having this just centerpiece, this pillar, boom, right in the middle of the defensive line. Again, think Anthony Weaver, 3-4 defense, Baltimore Ravens style. Like, you can do a lot more things when you have that position secure, when you have someone who can just clog lanes, stop the run, be this athletic force with an upside. I do like that. So, again, James Daniels, Kenneth Grant, Jonas Savania traded up in the second round to go land another guard here. I don't know Mike McDaniel's offense better than Mike McDaniel. So, You got to kind of trust him. Hey, if we're going to mortgage future draft capital for a guy like this, yeah, he's going to start. And we got James Daniels on the other side. Now, all of a sudden, if both guys hit, I feel pretty confident in Daniels. If both hit, now this offense can really start rolling. I threw in Ollie Gordon in there as well because at one point in time, Gordon was considered one of the best running backs in college football. Took a step backwards his final season with the Cowboys. But we do know that the, whatever you want to, however you want to term it, right? The Miami Dolphins, this style of system. We can go back and look at like Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers. This system allows running backs with potential to pop. And Gordon has potential, right? I know he took a step back, but when I'm thinking about, who can maximize a running back's talents the most, I'm thinking Kyle Shanahan. I'm thinking Sean McVay. I'm thinking Mike McDaniel. Those three coaches just stand out to me. So could that be a hidden gem? A round 6 running back where, right now it's like on paper, okay, he's a 6th-round pick. But when we get into October, November, December, if this guy's turning heads, this guy's making plays, all of a sudden you could find a potential, day one contributor in round 6 at the running back position who at one point showed some pretty significant upside. Like that could be an awesome find. And then, of course, last but not least, Minkah Fitzpatrick, one of the better safeties in football. Plug him in at free safety. And, you're trading away the Jalen Ramsey contract. So, it's not like you're taking on this massive salary here. You're essentially clearing all of Ramsey's money, and then you're taking on Minkah, so it's not that bad when you look at kind of the end result as far as the money's concerned, and you're upgrading over Javon Holland. So I think, again, the Dolphins' identity is a bit weird. Again, are they gunning for it? Are they tanking? No and no. It feels like more so a retool. Like, let's get a little younger. Let's get a little cheaper. Let's get a little faster. And see where we stand this season and then make our final determination next year. For me, I would probably give the Dolphins offseason. It's going to sound a little weird because I've seen people give this offseason an F, a D. I think C plus B minus is I think if you look at the Dolphins offseason with the assumption of, okay, they are competing for the 1 seed. Yeah, this is not a good offseason, but because we don't have that identity, because we don't know what the Dolphins' goals are behind the scenes, how they want this season to go, it's very hard to give this offseason an F. There were quality moves made here. They do feel like longer term additions, right? Kenneth Grant, Savania, Gordon, moving on from Ramsey, bringing in Fitzpatrick. So again, for me, I'm thinking C plus B minus, somewhere in that range. And last but not least, we have the New York Jets, a team that, they needed systematic changes. They needed organizational changes. They needed culture change. They needed a ton this offseason. And so they bring in a new general manager. They bring in a new head coach, Aaron Glenn, new systems, new coaching staffs, all these new faces running the show. They're doing things differently. They're bringing in guys like Rick Spielman. They're shaking things up. It's not just the same old Jets, the same status quo. No, they're coming in and just saying, Glenn is really, it really feels like Glenn is saying, this is my team now. They came in, they're shaking things up. It's not the same old Jets type of feeling. It's not the status quo. You feel like Aaron Glenn is really putting his stamp on this football team, and they're going to sink or swim with him at the helm in his vision. It feels totally different compared to last year. Hype, headlines, Rodgers, McAfee show, drama, gotta add his friends, gotta throw the football to his friends, gotta make sure his friends have numbers, gotta go out and get all these former Packer players, and it was just a mess, just a completely dysfunctional mess. And so again, the Jets have or had a lot to clean up. We'll see how that trickles into the season and what changes we do see. Let's look at the losses first. So DJ Reed, I think, was a pretty huge loss. Multi-year contract to the Detroit Lions, also losing Devontae Adams, 2-year deal to the LA Rams, Aaron Rodgers, of course, to the Steelers, Tyler Conklin to the Chargers. You focus in on the additions: Justin Fields, 2-year deal, Brandon Stevens, 3-year deal, Armand Membu drafted in the first round, Mason Taylor drafted in the second round. All 4 of those players are expected to start and be pretty big contributors in year 1. right? Whether you want to talk about the free agents or the rookies, yeah, there's expectations on Mason Taylor to become tight end one of this football team. There's expectations to be, corner 2 for Brandon Stevens. So I think right now the Jets and the Patriots are actually pretty similar, when you're looking at both organizations from like a macro perspective. Both teams hired new coaches. Both teams hired former, like however you want to phrase it, alma mater. Like Glenn's a former Jet. Vrabel's a former Patriot. Glenn knows the Jets organization. He knows the Jets fan base. Glenn was a scout with the Jets all those years ago. Vrabel, again, knows that Patriots culture. He knows what he wants his teams to look like. Both guys are old school. Both guys are defensive minded. Both guys have been and worked with really, really good coaches throughout their careers. You kind of feel like even though they're different guys and they're running, 2 different things here, 2 different systems, that the essence of what, like the core root of what both coaches are preaching is the same, which is be that tough physical team that doesn't beat themselves. And it's kind of ironic because the Pats and the Jets are big time rivals. The Patriots, you feel like they have their quarterback, but they need a lot of help everywhere else. Whereas the Jets have stars, they're pretty top heavy. Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams, Gardner, Garrett, list goes on. But it's more so a depth issue and a quarterback issue. So you're looking at these moves. I think there's a lot of maybe uncertainty. Is Justin Fields a franchise quarterback? We don't know. Is he going to be here for the next 3-4 years? We don't know. Is Brandon Stevens going to be here for 3 years? We don't know. We also drafted Azareye'h Thomas in round 3, who's projected to go in round 1 at one point, had the slower 40 time, then all of a sudden mocked in mid part of round 2. We scoop him up in round 3. High hopes, but it's kind of, I feel like a lot of Jets fans are like, wait and see. Like, hey, all you guys do is talk. All you guys do is like hype the team up for a disappointing season. We got to see it. Like, we have to see it on the field. Yes, Glenn is new. Yes, Darren Muji's new. Yes, Justin Fields is new. But it's still the same team. Rodgers was here last season for the Jets. Saleh was here. Ulbrich, Hackett, horrible. Again, definitely feels like wait and see mode. If we start off the season, win-loss, I don't want to just say, oh, that's irrelevant, right? Obviously not. But I think how the games are played, how they are won, how they're lost is going to speak volumes about where the Jets are at in their locker room. We're going to have a pretty good idea on where this team stands after the first month of the season, after the first 2 months, right? Are the games close? Are they competitive? Are they going to the fourth quarter? There's going to be rookie mistakes. There's going to be, botched situations, messed up plays, bad play call, bad game plan one week. But all these guys are young and doing it for the first time. So, yeah, for me, I think, honestly, again, I know the Jets didn't have these, we didn't pull off this crazy trade, add the big name guy, but I think for what they needed, the void of this football team, the culture, the hardworking mentality, someone to come in and flip the script, they did that. And so for me, B+, A- for the New York Jets offseason so far. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.